The Zero Millage Increase Bond 2022, featured in this program, would not increase the debt millage above the 2021 debt millage rate.
Hello everyone, I'm Bob Colt. We're talking with the Board of Education President for the Lansing School District, Gabrielle Lawrence. Welcome again to this conversation. It's good that we can talk maybe without a mask for this time. So tell us how it's going with the board. We have just approved moving forward with a big bond resolution that will set a vote in May. Tell us a little bit about the origins of what's involved in the next bond vote, and why is it in May?
Come with me on a little bit of a historical rewind. So if you remember, about 20 years ago, the Lansing School District passed a bond for what we called the new Pattengill. And that's the most new Lansing School District building that's on that busy intersection right across the street from Marshall Park. Colloquially around town, that's been known as the new Pattengill for a long time. That building is now Eastern High School. Pattengill is the old Fairview Elementary School. That building was expanded, it was renovated, it's a gorgeous building. And now that was 20 years ago. So that bond is about to roll off. And we recognize that we have a great opportunity to extend that bond at no tax increase to the voters. So whenever we undertake a bond question in the Lansing School District, it's a several month long process. We go through really a painstaking process of getting community feedback from different district employees, parents, different community partners that we have throughout the district. And then we go through all of the buildings with a fine-tooth comb. We identify where are there opportunities to improve those buildings. What are the facility needs in those buildings? We do that every single time we have a bond question, and this time was no different. So for this question, this again went on for several months. We engaged dozens of community members. We had public feedback sessions where people were able to come and offer their opinions on what the district should do going forward. And we identified some different opportunities that we're very excited about. So under the guidance of our new superintendent, Ben came in and said, we've got a great opportunity to reimagine what a lot of these elementary buildings look like, literally. We identified 4 buildings that will be completely torn down and rebuilt. That will be on their current structure, and we will, I believe, start with Mount Hope Elementary School. So Mount Hope is a great gem of the South Side. It's an extremely popular STEAM program. It's a great school, but the building really has a lot of needs. The building is kind of falling apart.
And it would almost be more expensive to renovate the existing building than tear it down and build a new one.
Exactly, which was the same thing we ran into a few years ago with the old Eastern High School. We realized it was going to take way too much to renovate that building, to bring it up to code essentially. So it's much more bang for our buck, believe it or not, to tear it down and to completely rebuild. So we identified Mount Hope, Luton, Willow, and Sheridan Road, all elementary buildings and all spread out throughout the city. Buildings that will really give our students the best opportunity to be in a beautiful new building that really has state-of-the-art technology.
And if the bond is approved, you would likely stage the construction of those elementaries, every year, or construction will be spread out so that the building can go down, cleared, and then you start the new year. So there's not all of them are down at the same time. You couldn't do that.
Right. Exactly. We couldn't facilitate having all kids from 4 schools on one site. We don't have the room for that. But we would have the room to say, okay, Mount Hope, that old building is going to be offline for this year. We're going to shift those kids to a different building while we rebuild Mount Hope. We've done this in the past. We did this with Dwight Rich just a few years ago. Those Dwight Rich students were at Pleasant View while their building was being renovated. So it's happened before. It's not a big deal. And then when the kids are ready to come back the following year, they would have an entirely new school.
Well, that's cool for the kids coming back. And so this is really a unique opportunity for the possibility of a bond extension. at no increase in taxes, as opposed to doing something later like November. You would have had to go through kind of a more complicated process to do it.
Exactly. So I've gotten some questions. Why does the district want to have this election in May? Well, unfortunately, the district has to have this election in May because just like you said, if we waited until November, it would be a new tax. It was really important to us. It is really important to us to maintain current tax rates. This will be no tax increase to the voters. It will simply be an extension of that debt.
Are you encouraged that there has been so much support for the Lansing School District? Previous bond issues, and then now you're seeing a lot of support where other school districts may have some kind of trauma over masking or vaccinations. It doesn't seem to be happening in the Lansing School District.
It's awesome, isn't it? I was at a school board conference last November, and I talked to a board member who's from a district far north of us, several hours away. And he said, wow, if we've gotten so much feedback on pushback over our mask mandate and we're a small district, I can only imagine what you've dealt with in Lansing. And I said, honestly, there's been extremely little pushback on the mask mandate. Our community, I think they recognize that the district is going to do everything in its power to keep students and staff safe. We did not receive a lot of pushback over the mask mandate. Every time I've been in a building this school year, the kids are so happy to be in the buildings that they would wear 2 masks if they had to. They don't care about wearing a mask. I have a 4-year-old who's in daycare. He wears a mask all day. It's no big deal. When I pick him up at the end of the day, I say to him, hey, Eddie, you can take your mask off. Frequently, he doesn't want to. He's used to it. It keeps his face warm. You know, once you get used to it, it's just not that big of a deal.
And he's an amazingly cute kid. You want to see him smile. That's the thing. You know, but this is sort of a unique opportunity because in the bond that will be up for election in May, it really focuses not only on those new elementary schools, but also ventilation, which has now come to, really a point that's highlighted in a lot of school districts. What's the building ventilation? And you have the opportunity to solve some problems.
Yeah, we do. Another big issue is air conditioning throughout the district. I was in all 3 high schools on the first day of school this past fall of 21, and it was hot. It wasn't even that hot outside. It was probably in the 80s, but I remember walking through the hall at Sexton, my alma mater, and I was fully sweating. Granted, I had a mask on, so I was a little bit hotter than usual, but I could not believe how hot it was in that building. So this bond will also allow us to install air conditioning throughout the entire district.
Yeah, and so not just in the hallways, but in the classrooms as well. And it will allow for a schedule that could be flexible with more summer programming that a lot of districts are going to.
Absolutely right. And my kids, as I've mentioned, I have a 4-year-old, I also have a 2-year-old. And I'm thinking, man, when that 2-year-old is school age, what am I going to do with her in the summertime? If we can move towards having a more balanced calendar, maybe even not throughout the entire district, but in certain programs, that is certainly something that I would be interested in taking advantage of. And if those buildings are comfortable, they're cool, they're air conditioned, it's going to be a lot easier for parents to justify sending their kids to school in the summertime.
So people are telling you that's something that they really want. That air conditioning, ventilation, make sure that the building is safe, at least for kids, so that they wouldn't have to wear a mask. I mean, we're coming to the point where they wouldn't anyway, hopefully, as COVID retracts. But the other things are just functionally in the winter, boilers and other problems that you would have in some of the older buildings, and it's really time, isn't it?
It is. This has been a laser focus of the facilities committee for the last few months. We know that, for example, I've already mentioned Sexton, but we know that in Sexton, the temperature is wonky. The HVAC needs work. We are focusing on that. That is an absolute priority for the district. This bond is also going to give a lot of love to the Big Reds. It's going to allow us to make a large investment in Sexton. Sexton needs some dollars, needs some investment. So this bond will allow us to not only install air conditioning, but also to do an auditorium renovation.
That's big. That's huge.
Major. And if you've been in that auditorium, it's a gorgeous old retro auditorium, but again, it needs some work. So this bond will let us go through pretty much the entire building of Sexton and make those necessary upgrades.
And you're probably excited that you might be able to fix the clock.
Oh my
outside.
gosh.
Wouldn't that be great?
It will be amazing. That would be wonderful.
Well, and so for a lot of young people, I mean, in 8th or 9th grade, they still have time where there'll be some process of construction that may disrupt things a little bit. But gosh, when a lot of the kids graduate, there'll be a lot of the work done, won't there?
Absolutely. Yep, you're right. So this year's seniors, of course, wouldn't see much effect from this bond, as it's probably going to pass just a month before they graduate. But those kids who are early in their high school career, they will absolutely see the effects of these bond dollars. We already are planning, so we know as soon as that money starts to come in, we've got our projects lined up. We have had some struggles with the supply chain, just like everyone in the world has for the last few years, but we are being as organized and deliberate as possible so we can really hit the ground running as soon as these dollars start to come in.
And when the bond is generated, you will spend the money over time. And even though you pay interest on bonding, a lot of people don't realize that as you have the money, you're also gaining interest. You're actually making some money from the bonding process.
Yep, and this would be a 25-year bond, which would result in about $130 million of revenue for the district. It's major, and sometimes people will question, why does the district come and ask the voters for bonds? This is just the way that our public school system is structured. Every district asks for bond. Our district is pretty low in terms of dollars levied from the voters, but this is not something more than likely that will ever end unless we have a large structural change in how public school systems are funded.
And that actually may be coming. The governor is proposing to really increase the Student Grant Foundation and put a record amount of money into public schools. And as a school board president, you must feel good about that.
It feels amazing. We know, unfortunately, we can't count our chickens until they hatch, as my mom would say. But we are very optimistic that Governor Whitmer will take some action that would allow us to have a little bit more breathing room when it comes to budgets.
And so if the bond covers facilities, then you would look at more money that comes in to pay for teachers and teaching assistants and substitute teachers and all, counselors, all of the other things that really help a school. But you also have to think too, with the new bond, about security, because that is a rising issue. I know we're on, the heels of the Oxford shootings, which really bring that violence close to home. But we say that kids are the safest place they can be is in school. And so we have to think about continuing to make it safe.
We've made recent investments throughout the district. We've installed secure entryways, sally ports, some different security measures that we've implemented thanks to the last couple of bonds that we've passed. But we know we're always trying to make things safer, make things more secure, make kids feel more secure, and we will always continue to address those concerns and to reinvest. But like you said, we could use some of that, those dollars that the government might allocate to us to increase staffing levels. We know, not only in Lansing, not only in Michigan, but nationwide, there's a teacher shortage. So how do we make those jobs more attractive? That's by paying our teachers more, paying our teachers what they're worth. So if we've got a little bit more room in the budget for that, I believe that will make those jobs even more attractive to entry-level teachers.
Well, and teaching is a hard job. And so is being the president of the Lansing School Board. You've got the bond this year. You've got to get kids back in schools, all kinds of things going on. What other things do you want to mark off or check off as a goal for this year?
Oh, man. We are looking at our pools throughout the district. So if people have, one person out there might have watched a board meeting in the past, but I always am talking about the district's pools. I was a high school swimmer at Sexton. Those pools are really important to me. We started a 4th grade Learn to Swim program at Gardner this past fall that was hugely successful with those kids. That was a partnership between the district, the YMCA, and Lansing Parks and Rec. We're looking to expand that next year to our other 4 through 6 buildings, which means those pools need to be upgraded. Those pools need to be up to snuff. So I'm really excited about making reinvestments in those pools.
Good. 2022 will be a big year for the Lansing School District. I mean, we sometimes get confused about where we are in Jenna, but there is going to be so much happening. An exciting year. Gabrielle Lawrence, President of the Lansing School District Board of Education. Thank you for this conversation today. I'm Bob Colt. We'll continue our conversations in the Lansing School District.